Hi, everyone. Karen Roby here for Tech Republic. Happy today to be joined by Ira Cohen. Ira's the Chief Data Scientist with Anadot. Thanks for being with me here today.
Thank you for having me.
Ira, the healthcare industry is, we're seeing it just evolving and, in front of our eyes. There were even plenty of offices that had never even considered telehealth that have now been just thrust into that. So many changes in that industry, and AI is certainly playing a big role in that.
Yes, and I think the pandemic actually was a unique time point where we see it. Even we don't play in that area at all. And when the pandemic started, we started talking to various health use cases or healthcare providers that would never talk to us, would never even consider. We said, "Do you have data? Can you give it to us for testing?" Yeah, sure. Here, let's do a quick. Let's get an approval, Helsinki approval for doing all sorts of testing that before would take 2 years to do, and this changed in a minute. So I see it with other companies. The healthcare industry is going to embrace AI very quickly, very significantly. A big part of it because of this. It was accelerating before, but now it gave it this huge boost of acceleration that I think we'll get the benefit out of it in the next few years, most definitely.
And when you talk to people that are in leaders within the healthcare stack, what are their biggest concerns when to move forward and to keep progressing? What are their biggest concerns and how to get there and what it's going to take to get there? Or do they even understand enough? Not a lot of people don't really realize what AI is capable of.
Yeah. So I think the biggest concern is always privacy for making sure that things continue to become private and there's no leakage of information through these AI initiatives, and even when they're being used, so there's no leakage of information. But I would say that's probably one of the biggest concerns. They also um, the what's always pushing them to be skeptical is adoption. So they always think, will it be adopted by physicians, by providers, even if it's accurate? There's always this tension between, do we trust this machine to tell us what's correct or not? And a lot of the AI out there today doesn't necessarily know well how to explain why it said something. So I tell you that you have cancer, but I can't tell you why. Well, all your data told us that, but why? And that's kind of where the gap is in making good use of a lot of the AI that exists today. But there is a lot of work being done constantly on bridging those gaps. So I would say these are the two things: the privacy, which can lead people to not trust the whole system, and the gap between what AI can really do today. It can be very accurate, but it's not very accurate at telling you why it thinks something is A or B, why it thinks you have cancer or you don't have cancer.
Right,
Um,
right.
so that's where a lot of the gap is.
Yeah, most definitely. And when you talk to these huge, whether it's a big healthcare organization, a smaller entity, is there such a thing as just dipping your toes when it comes into AI, or is it a full adoption that you have to go all in?
No, no, definitely dipping your toes. Yeah, you take a small problem and you try to solve it. For example, I've heard of trying to do better monitoring of ICU patients, which is very relevant to the pandemic, especially in situations when you have a lot of patients at the same time, much more than normal. Normally, you'd have one nurse per one ICU patient. All of a sudden, you get one nurse for five, and it changes the game completely. So in those scenarios, those are dipping the water. But those are small scenarios that you show results, and then you move forward from there. So definitely, I don't think anybody's embracing it as a whole thing.
All right. Ira Cohen, Chief Data Scientist with Anodot. Thanks so much for being with me here today. And we appreciate you watching. And for much more on AI, the healthcare industry, and what you need to know, make sure you check out Tech Republic and ZDNet. Thanks for watching.